Gupte here.
Hello.
Hello. Sir, will you be recording the meeting or should I record the meeting?
Recording option is given here, so I have put it on.
Okay, fine, sir. No problem at all.
After that, it will ask for.
Yes, sir.
At the end of session, I have to put it off, or it will be automatically.
You'll have to put it off. But I believe that the recording takes some time to, get uploaded.
Okay.
So we will have to wait for about 15-20 minutes before we switch off the computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, there was some misunderstanding about the link. I sent it 2 days ago, and I was, with my name and all that. But this morning, I was very surprised to see your message saying that you have not received the
But I
link.
have not received, in fact.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, and for me, it showed that you had seen it. So I was kind of, not worried at all. Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, sorry for all that misunderstanding.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. So I'm switching off my, I'm muting myself.
Okay.
Yeah, and then because you will be conducting the meeting, we were
Okay.
asked to put up the screen a few minutes before the meeting starts. And then, once you tell me, I will get the screen off and you can share your own screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me try to share my screen. That would be better.
Okay, sir, you will have to ask my computer to stop sharing, I think. For me, stop. Sorry, I stopped the share button. Now you are.
Now I will share my
Yes,
screen.
yes.
Okay.
You have been pinned now.
Sharing. No.
Sir, there is a share screen option, green colored at the bottom of the screen.
So I have to select file from. That option Dropbox, Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive Box, Microsoft SharePoint. I have to share from my computer.
Yes, sir.
So which option I should select? Basic, advanced files?
Oh, I don't know. Let me check.
Select a window or an application that you want to share.
Maybe the screen, no? Basic. He says basic.
Okay, basic. Then?
Just tell sir what to do.
Hello, sir. I hope I'm
Hello.
Sir, the file which you want to share, you have to open it in the background.
Okay, first let me open that file. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes. Please open that file.
That is PDF, PDF background, RC40, PDF background. Yes, it is open now.
Okay. Now, please go to the Zoom screen again and click on share screen.
Yes.
Then you will see the small windows over there.
Yes.
You will have to choose the file which you want to share.
No, it is not there.
A little while ago, you said, sir, whether should I select from basic, advanced, and files?
Basic. No?
So, yeah, if you click on basic, then over there you can see that minimized windows will be there. Small boxes will appear over there.
Launch meeting with India RC08 program schedule. No, that file is not showing that file.
Have you opened that file in the background, sir?
Yes.
Then it should be visible in this window.
Okay, let me do it again. Share window. Now it is showing.
Yes. So you'll have to click on share option.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you, Abhijit.
So I have to admit the people, or they will automatically join.
So we will have to admit. Archana and Preeti and all of you all were admitted by us.
And Ruparani was waiting.
Yeah, we have admitted her now. And Pankaj Kumar Singh, we have admitted.
Rupa is admitted.
Waiting room.
I think it is already 5:37. उसको म्यूट कर दीजिए अपने. अपना वो भी माइक भी मिनिमाइज इसको म्यूट कर दीजिए. स्पीकर सिस्टम का स्पीकर. So this will be in background.
Yes, sir, we can see the poster.
Okay. This will continue, or I can remove this for time being.
You can pin yourself, no? Sir, because we could see you earlier. We could see your picture earlier.
Pin. What is the spotlighting? The view is not coming. Why it is not coming on the screen?
Ah, yes, we can see you. Full screen.
Okay. Good evening to मेरी आवाज क्यों आ रही है वापस? Good evening. आपका ऑन है क्या? Good evening to all of you. ये आवाज नहीं आनी चाहिए वापस. इको कर रही है आवाज. Hello, good evening to everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
now it is all right. I welcome you all in this particular session of RC14, Globalization and Culture. In this session, we have, I think, 4 papers. Modi. The 5 papers by Preeti Tiwari, Dr. Preeti Tiwari, Dr. Rachana Atri Saxena, Deepika Kukreti, then Ashutosh Upadhyay. I'm not seeing Ashutosh Upadhyay. Then from Sohini, Chanda and Archana Patnaik, and from Sudipta Garai. How many of you are present?
Sir, one person has joined by the telephone number, so we don't know who that is. There is some 821188350595. Please identify yourself.
Sohini Chanda is there.
Yes.
Who is 821883505595?
Please unmute yourself and identify.
Tell. Hello. 8218835059.
I think I am the one, but I don't know why that number is showing. I'm Sudipta, Dr. Sudipta here.
Huh?
I'm Dr. Sudipta. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I don't know, sir, that why this number is coming, but maybe I would have.
You can change your username. On the right hand corner, there's an icon.
Where is it?
On the right hand side corner on your screen, there's an icon. Can you see triple dots there?
More.
3 dots.
Okay, ma'am, I'll just try to do that.
There's a rename option in that.
Okay, I'll just.
Okay, we
Oh,
can
yes, yes,
recognize
yes,
you
yes.
now. There is no problem.
No, I'll rename myself. I think that will be
Better. You
Thank
come
you.
with your name then
Because
number.
I couldn't recognize myself. So that was a problem.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
That's right.
First of all, I welcome Dr. Rupa Rani TS. She is the co-chair to my session.
Good evening, everyone.
We are virtually connected. She is in Singapore at present, and she is connected from there. So it is a great pleasure for us that after
many years,
not many years after Mysore conference, you were absent in Kerala, but now you have resumed the research committee. So I welcome you on my behalf and on behalf of our research committee. I also welcome the paper presenters, Dr. Rachna Attri, Preeti Tiwari, Sudipta Garei, Upadhyay, Ashutosh Upadhyay is present or absent, and Sohani Chanda. So these are the paper presenters, and we have good time, about 75 minutes now. So we can start presentations. So first of all, I invite Dr. Preeti Tiwari from the University of Allahabad. She has just completed her PhD from Center for Globalization and Development Studies, University of Allahabad. So she has to speak on social and cultural impact of COVID-19 in India. So Dr. Preeti Tiwari, please briefly present your paper, say 15 to 20 minutes or whatever time. It may be less than that also. It depends on you.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Good
Yes.
evening to you all. I'm audible to you all?
Yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Yes.
Topic of my paper is social and cultural impact of pandemic COVID-19 in India. This pandemic COVID-19 was originated in China in November 2019, and from there it is spread over throughout the world in very short period. In March 2020, WHO declared it as a pandemic disease. Since then, 3 waves of the corona and its variants have affected the life of the people throughout the world. This has been proved a severe crisis to the humanity as a whole. However, apart from health of the victims, it has affected various aspects of social and cultural life of the people in the society. And this paper is aimed to analyze the social impact of pandemic COVID-19 on education, sports, travel, and tourism industry and market behavior in a society like India, which is one of the fast growing economy of the world. This pandemic COVID-19 has affected social life of the people in India in a significant manner during the crisis and thereafter. This can be analyzed in terms of social relations, mainly of family, kinship, and neighborhood. The sociability of the people diminished significantly as people started to avoid visiting to their relatives, friends, neighbors, even within the house. COVID protocols were followed strictly. During home quarantine, family members were strictly confined to their rooms. However, in case of lower and lower middle class families, it was very difficult to maintain the protocols, which have resulted in a spread of the disease in all the members of the family. Neighborhood interaction has also decreased, and exchange of food and other things was stopped. Although physical distance with the relatives was maintained, but at certain occasions like cremation in case of death of a relative, and in performing the rituals related to this, only very close relatives were allowed, as government has restricted public gathering from 5 to 15 persons only. In some cases, people have performed rituals within the family. People were not comfortable with the visits of the friends, relatives, and other persons to their house. This kind of behavior was also observed in festivals when the people celebrated it without much pomp and show. As this pandemic is still going on, this kind of behavior has now established as a standard norm in most of the Indian families. As far as impact of COVID-19 on educational institution is concerned, during the lockdown, all the institutions were closed down for indefinite period. However, essential staff members were called, or indispensable official work while maintaining the COVID protocols were done. After 2-3 weeks, teachers were instructed to conduct online classes at all the levels of education. In a society like India, digitalization has covered most of the urban areas, but in most of the rural areas, internet connectivity was either poor or it was not available uh, at all during this whole period. During this period, demand of smart mobile phones was at height, but as courier services were disrupted and markets were also closed, it was a difficult task for both the teachers and students to maintain this full system. Very soon, it was realized that the lockdown will go for a longer period. The government therefore allowed limited courier services and home delivery of the essential items through retail market, store like Big Bazaar, Reliance Fresh, etc. The process of online classes continued till last week of October 2021. Thereafter, education and activities like conferences, workshops, refresher courses, and many other were shifted to online mode. Thus, the rapid digitalization of education have taken place in India at all the levels during last 18 months. This is a significant transformation of education system that has taken place during this pandemic. India also has a fast growing economy, although a very large population, about 60%, is still engaged in primary sector, that is our agriculture sector. And we live in rural areas. The decision of total lockdown was a very tough and risky decision from the viewpoint of economy. But in order to save the life of the people, this decision was taken. As the concentration of population in urban areas was very high, lockdown was strictly maintained there. As a result, industrial production and growth was hampered during first 3 months of total lockdown. As April to June are the months of agriculture harvesting, farmers were allowed to continue to conduct their agricultural activities, which contributed to the availability of the food grains to the urban consumers, as well as its storage in huge amount in the godowns of Food Corporation of India as reserve food. There was heavy storage of medical and health related equipments. Industrial sectors were diverted from the production of medical equipments and health related items. Similarly, the government played a very active role in overhauling the health infrastructure thereby ensuring adequate supply of vaccine and other necessary medical facilities to the people. And India also celebrated completion of vaccination of 100 crore of people on 21st October. And on the other hand, carelessness of people in maintaining COVID-19 protocol can be seen. And tourism industry was badly affected, and all the transportation industry like airlines, railway, roadways was badly affected. Transportation of goods was confined, and there was only supply of necessary goods. And in cultural sphere, we can see religious institutions were also closed down, and very limited activities were allowed to perform. Entertainment industry like cinema, film production, music industry, they were also affected, and a last shift to online platforms has taken place. Social media became major point of attraction to producers and consumers. Uh, this sport activities were also hampered. Gyms, sports complexes also stopped their activities. Morning walks and other such activities were also restricted. Home-based exercises and workout increases. Thus, we see that pandemic COVID-19 has affected all aspects of our life in last 2 years in a significant manner. This is all.
Thank you, Dr. Preeti Tiwari, for presenting a very empirical picture of the situation which we have in India during the pandemic and which is still continuing. And there are up and downs in the situation in last 2 years. And this crisis situation, I would say that it is not a situation which is a very regular one, but it is a situation which uh, happened almost after every 100 years, if we see the past trend. And sometimes this pandemic continued over centuries. And there was one study which indicate that the pandemic of the plague started in 15th to 16th century, continued up to the 19th century. So about 400 years or more than that. Uh, Only after that, this pandemic was removed from the world scenario. And situation was more worst what we have seen here in last 2 years. Uh, I think that handling of pandemic COVID-19 uh, was possible because of technological development or pharmaceuticals development we are having. And this is also very important that within 1 year, the vaccine has been, prepared for this and marketed. And now in 2 years, we have covered almost all the adult population of India, and at least one dose has been given and second dose is being given. But again, we have a new variant, Omicron, and but yesterday I have gone through one WHO notification, and they say that it is not very serious. And this is a good news. And in Africa, the death toll is very less, and it is a mild kind of infection. But point is that this infection may continue over years. So this will definitely have impact not only on different on the health dimension, but also the other dimensions of the social system, like the social relationships, kinship interaction patterns, neighborhood interaction, and Priti Tiwari has highlighted these points very well in that. But there is a need to examine this from conceptual and theoretical point of view, that how, what kind of theoretical issues we can raise from it. So I think let us discuss if there are certain queries or questions regarding this paper. So you can now, it is open for discussion. So we'll discuss every paper after presentation. Or if you want to share your observation, that would also be important. Not necessarily question, but observations. Anyone?
Yeah. Congratulations, Dr. Preeti, on a very authentic paper and based on authentic data. One observation I would like to make is it would have been nice if you had looked into even socio-psychological effect of this COVID situation among the relationships within the family, as well as interpersonal relationships with the neighbors and all, like how it's psychologically affecting in their behavior, and how the relationships are affected by this particular distancing and all that. I think it would have made the paper even more, stronger. But it's nice. It's very deep. The analysis is excellent. But then this is one of the aspects you can just add it, I think. Thank you.
I think very good suggestion, that social psychological dimension, because psychological impacts are also there. And within the family also. Because when all the members are within the house all the time, so there are certain things, tolerance should be more. Because when you are outside the home, then some people get more free time. And some wife said that he is always not doing anything, and he is always demanding a particular male that you prepare this and that in the kitchen to eat. So all the day she is busy in the kitchen and not getting free time.
Preeti, one aspect I thought we can look at is that the whole employment.
Who is speaking, please?
Yes, so me, Girija Gupte.
Okay.
Yeah. The entire employment situation, you see, because that was impacted very, very badly, especially when people had to walk for thousands of kilometers back to their homes with no notice at all, with no money at all, And so finally, even though we may be moving to cities for employment, how we finally have to depend on our rural backgrounds for survival during that time.
Yeah, good suggestion. Anybody else? Preeti, would you like to answer or make what you comment you want to make? Please unmute yourself. First unmute.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes,
sir,
audible now.
I'm going to incorporate these two valuable suggestions, this psychological dimension, this entire employment based dimension. What these two are really very important, and we're going to incorporate it. Then I think this paper will be complete.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
we can take up some more issues after completion of all the papers when we will finally discuss all the papers together. So now let me proceed to the second paper of the session, and this is by Dr. Rachna Tri Saxena. Title of the paper is Harnessing Social Capital Through Self-Help Groups in a Globalized Society, a sociological perspective on the efficacy of self-help groups in Indian development programs. This is actually very important issue, that efficacy of self-help groups, because in last 3 decades, I would say 19s onwards, there was emphasis on self-help groups, and this approach has been very effective for empowering the women in rural areas. And in rural development, self-help groups have done a lot of work. State government is also engaged in this to making self-help groups, and some NGOs are also working apart from the government agencies. But major problem of rural development programs is effective implementation of any scheme. In some cases, one of my students have done PhD in this area. He has studied this in Kamrup district of Assam, and he finds some self-help groups are working very well. But there are many self-help groups created by the government agencies. They are just on papers and they have no impact at the ground. So I think this is very important area, and let us listen Rachna what she has to say on this issue, a very important issue of rural development. Yes, Rachna 3.
A very warm welcome to everybody in RC14. Sir, with your permission, we would like, Deepika and I would like to share with you how we had planned to take this paper forward in an online form. So apparently, हमारा प्लान ये है कि दीपिका आपको इंट्रोड्यूस आप लोग के साथ शेयर करेंगी कि ये पेपर हम लोग कैसे लिखने पर आए, हाँ, एंड किस तरह से हम आपके सामने ये प्रेजेंट करने जाएंगे, एंड आई विल ट्राई टू बी द वॉइस while she is presenting it. Let's hope we are able to onset. I would like to share with you all that we would be really wanting your feedback, because this paper is an outcome of, you know, the conversations we were having, and it was like, okay, let's put it on paper. And she has been the one who's been like, write it. So I'll hand over the platform to Deepika to take us forward on this.
But she is shown as Salesh Kukreti. Okay. You please rename yourself.
Right, so right. So maybe the Zoom was, earlier downloaded
by
my
husband.
That's why. So,
okay.
Yes.
Anyway, but I could identify from Kukreti.
Yes.
I was looking your name. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Warm greetings to the chairperson, sir, co-chairperson, and fellow participants. Rachna and I would like to thank you all for giving us this platform for sharing our paper. Its title is Harnessing Social Capital Through Self-Help Groups in a Globalized Society. It's a sociological perspective of efficacies of self-help groups in the Indian development programs. With the permission of the chairperson, we propose to begin discussion by looking at the settings and logic behind the title, the methodology and the structure of the paper where we will elicit. So I would request my co-author Rachna to please take us through. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Deepika, you'll have to prompt me with the slides.
Sure. Yes, I'll do that.
So we begin the paper with a quote by Hegel. This quote in 1952, when he had written, he says, "No man." But I thought in 1921, we can take the liberty of changing it into "No person is independent by self. Each finds their self involved in the process of production, exchange, and consumption. In the course of the actual attainment of selfish ends, an attainment conditioned in this way by universality, there is formed a system of complete interdependence, wherein the livelihood, happiness, and legal status of one person is interwoven with the livelihood, happiness, and rights of all. Now, we chose this statement to put in that, in our daily interactions, we are in circle, in concentric and concentric circles which overlaps, and there are plural identities. In the interaction of these identities, we end up generating excuse me, social capital. And how this is, my prompt is not coming. It's with the permission of the Czech, may I please read it from So the distinctive feature of human social interface in the everyday life is that people in their various plural identities, multiple affiliations, and diverse associations are essentially social creatures with different types of social interaction. This is taken from Amartya Sen and Sledzic's 2009 report, where they say that an individual is not merely as a member of just one social group. Their identities tend to be based on an inadequate understanding of the breadth and complexity of any society in the world. The social interaction and the web of structure so formed is a collection of diverse entities, trust, norms, networks, and these are unevenly distributed in terms of groups, communities. Professor N. Jairam's it's a 3 lines, but that forms the basis of our work. He says, in our quotidian life, who we are as determined by our primal grouping, it can be caste, sect, religion, region, gender, or linguistic community. And I have emphasized on gender because when we will discuss the SHGs, we have Deepika and I have primarily focused on SHGs run by women. It is still very important. Okay, so let me share with you how we have collected the data and how Deepika and I came to write about the paper. Deepika had worked with Rajivika in Rajasthan, and she was in the institutional building. I had earlier in early 2000 worked in Lucknow on a health-based program run by a voluntary organization called Lakshmi Mahila Evam Bal Kalyan Sanstha. What I found was that during my working with Lakshmi, they used to hold meetings, and these were not SHGs at that time. These were just Mohalla meetings on health. It was a UNICEF program. I was the monitoring person from the agency, and I would go and see and observe as a social worker. And we have this habit of maintaining a diary. And in that diary, I had noted how these women, when they would come and the meeting would start, it would start with a bhajan, if it was a Hindu home. If it was a mixed religious home, it would start with a neutral song. हमको मन की शक्ति देना, हम जिंदा है तू जिंदगी की जीत पे यकीन कर, kind of a thing. Why I bring these mundane things in the paper is that when a claim is made that SHGs are not working, they're not able to capitalize on their social capital. These settings, of the bonding and social capital is of three kinds. My prompt has not come in. I'm so sorry. I'll try to run the paper in less confused form. So social capital is bonding, linking, and bridging. What I'm talking to you right now is bonding. एक set systemic process wherein women feel that it is their space. The purpose of that space is to discuss, for Lakshmi at that point of time, it was to discuss community-based disease surveillance mechanism, which was sponsored by UNICEF. In Deepika's case, it is Rajivika. It is run by government. They have very set agenda, microfinancing. But there also, when women are meeting, they are not talking only of, depositing the money. There are n number of things that happen. They talk of how somebody in their family is into substance abuse. Somebody in the group would tell them where to go, how a certain case of gendered violence is happening, and that is dealt with. Now, when these things happen, the group, somebody in the group, when they support them, then the bonding is stronger. The bonding which would later help them capitalize and harness social capital. Now, I will take you back to Lucknow, Lakshmi Bal Evam Mahila Kalyan. So Lakshmi's was formed by these two women who were working with the State Women and Child Welfare Board. Raj Lakshmi Kakkar and Sadhna Mehrotra. And these women, their families had medical background, in the sense once Sadhna ji's husband had a diagnostic center. So whatever health, and this is in reference to the downward percolation of social capital, that is that these two ladies who were working with the government and had families who were doctors, they were able to generate downward percolation of social capital, in the sense that they were having linkages with the health department. So if my two women from the community, Madhuri ji and Sunita Yadav, their area organization a health camp, there were a lot of medicines which were given, a lot of checkups happened, and the scale was amazing. Referral services. So even before these two started doing the microcredit or thrift group, they started with the thrift group, which later, when District Urban Development Authority (DUDA) came up with an SHG, they both formed separate SHGs, which are doing good work. They are able to give loans, as well as they have started a micro enterprise. One makes handbags and the other makes handicrafts. So if you see what we say in the paper, harnessing social capital through self-help group, we find that in Lucknow example, later they are able to upscale along with District Urban Authority, and in Deepika's field area, Rajasthan, there's an SHG in Dungarpur, which, along with the thrift group, microfinance, they started a solar lamp enterprise, which was in collaboration, where the technology was transferred by IIT Bombay. So look at the exposure of the group happen. Yes, we are talking positive, but what I'm trying to bring on the platform is that, why do the positive happen? Positive happens because there is an end-to-end harnessing of social capital. Each sort of social capital: bonding, bridging, and linking. Linking in the sense that a small group of women who are a part of SHG are able to be part of the clusters, plan out their enterprise, have that kind of capacity. Doing a capacity building exercise is one thing, but having people who can internalize that capacity building exercise is what matters in a successful SHG. Excuse me.
Now, please conclude your paper.
Yes. We maintain that while SHG literature continues to stress on bonding capital as catalytic to development impact, we find that bridge and linking capital has been critical to leverage the groundswell. And this groundswell has to be built on the working of the people who form the initial group, who we identify as the potential SHG members given the government mandate. And if we see Rajivika, if we see DUDA's micro enterprise initiative, they have within themselves a learning of 40 years. In fact, our SHG platform, when it was started, it was not supported by any of the international financial institution. It was NABARD and Indian financial institutions like ICICI give them an umbrella line of credit. And till 2006, micro credit institution, there's this microcredit summit. They even refused to accept SHGs as part of microcredit. It was only when they were unable to meet their target that they started accepting them in 2006. And when we look at our National Rural Livelihood Mission, we find that they have incorporated linkages across the line, and the upscaling is, and economies of the scale are can be phenomenally met. I totally agree that there can be SHGs on paper only, but where they are not, where they are actually vibrant and thriving, they have made tremendous impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very empirical and a paper which has a lot of efforts in collecting empirical data into states, Lucknow, that is Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan, and you try to compare two important SHGs, and which was have different agencies which were involved in that. But I think that self-help groups approach is very relevant when we talk of the rural development. Uh, there are certain limitations, also structural constraints with women who want to work in rural areas. So I think if we can have a comparative study of the SHG in urban area and rural area, and what are the structural constraints which women in rural areas face while they want to come forward, because there are caste compulsions, family compulsions, patriarchal structures. So I think in a study of self-help groups, we should look into this kind of factors, that to what extent the upper caste women are involved in these self-help groups, whether they are allowed to participate in that, and even if they participate, what is their role in that, whether they work as an elite or they uh, try to see, because caste factor is very important in rural areas. So when we examine the functioning of self-help groups, it should not be just on the economic dimensions of self-help groups, but social dimension, cultural dimensions are also to be looked into, and that will give more insights from interview into the rural development, strategy of rural development, because caste is an important factor still in India. And when we talk of politically, then we always talk of so many Jat votes, particular the Dalit votes, Brahmin votes, and there is a fight for Brahmin votes, 12% Brahmin votes. Exact number is not known, that how many, what is the exact percentage of a particular caste in a particular state. But even then there are guessworks, and people try to make their strategy on the basis of to influence the castes, and giving all kind of lollipops type of offers. So politically, and also in rural development programs, we see caste is an important factor right from 1958, when S.C. Dubey has written India's Changing Villages and examined the rural development projects in Saharanpur district of Uttar Pradesh. And right now, I think things have not changed much in rural areas as far as social structure is concerned. Still, there are faction. Now, faction politics has become very important on caste basis in rural areas, and which affect the development projects, and a lot of money is siphoned from that.
True.
So I think these are certain aspects which we have to look into when we talk of the self-help groups in rural areas. And we have also focused on what is happening in urban areas.
True.
because development is required in urban areas. There is the urban poverty also in slums, and there are many workers who are poor. But there is no, I think there may be a study, but I have not come through such a study.
जो हमने इसमें प्रेजेंट किया है, मेरा लखनऊ में जिन की मैं बात कर रही हूँ, दे आर इन मनकामेश्वर वार्ड विच इज एंड्रूडा के अंडर है, डिस्ट्रिक्ट अर्बन वाले हैं।
अच्छा, अर्बन है।
हाँ, लेकिन सर जो कास्ट लाइन्स है ना, उसमें बड़े मतलब इट्स अ वेरी फाइन लाइन। यू हैव टू हैव women who are able to have such strong SHG, मतलब उस SHG में इतना दम होना चाहिए कि वो इतना कुछ दे रहा हो कि वो लोग रिलीजन और कास्ट को वो थोड़ा बहुत मतलब एडजस्टमेंट करना चाहें। एक होता है कि आपका ग्रुप ही इतना मजबूत है कि उन्हें लगता है कि सुनो हम भी आ जाएं क्या, हम भी उस मीटिंग में आ जाएं। So I remember when I would go for the meetings, so कभी कभी कोई नया चेहरा होता था तो it was like कि ये चाह रही है कि ये भी आ जाए, so change happened. Like if Deepika, she's not with us, she was sharing with me that there were these amazing young women in her area which were in the border of Rajasthan and Gujarat. So जो गुजरात का में जिनका exposure रहा था, she used to say, she was telling me that their book maintenance, thank you, welcome back. Their book managing ability was phenomenal, and there were few, जब आप बैठे हुए होते हो मीटिंग में, आपको लगता है कि कुछ बात है, ये अच्छे से लेकर जाएंगी.
It depends on the reputation of a particular agency, organization also, and the work they have done. And I have seen some very good voluntary organization in Silchar also, that is Desh Bandhu Club. Achha. They are doing a very good work in rural areas as well as in urban areas. Okay. So they have a very good reputation, and even district administration also recognize their work and help them in that. So I think the reputation of the organization is also very important in that. But I think these are endless issues. If there is one or two questions, I would like to, because it is only I have some issues. From others, if there is any query on this, otherwise we'll proceed to the third paper, because we have time limits. It is already 6:31, half an hour we have only. So I think let us proceed now to the third paper.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
And it is by Sohini Chanda and Dr. Archana Patnaik, maybe her guide. I think she was seen on the screen.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone present here. Sir, if it's all right, I would like to share my screen. I have the PPT.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Please share.
Sir, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Yeah. So is it visible now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sohini Chanda, and I'm going to talk on the topic rock puppetry as cultural commons, a case of cultural revival from West Bengal. Now, this paper has been co-authored by myself and Dr. Archana Patnaik. So before moving on, I would like to take you through the contents first. So firstly, I will give you a brief introduction to the art form of rod puppetry in general before moving on to the case study of the rod puppetry organization that I've selected, and tell you how it produces and reproduces the art form of rod puppetry as cultural commons. Finally, I will be talking about the social dilemma that is involved in the functioning of this organization and the steps that they have taken to make sure that they stay alive. Okay, so what is rod puppetry? Now, as the name suggests, that the puppet in this particular art form is installed on a rod, which is then tied or fastened to the waist of the puppeteer, who stays behind a screen and manipulates the puppet. Now, it's very essential that the puppeteer stays behind the curtain so that the audience can only see the puppet when they are staring at the stage. So in order to make this possible, the puppets are made at least 3.5 to 4 meters in length, so that they are well above the screen that the puppeteer is hiding behind. Now, in Bengal, this kind of a puppet is known as Danger Putul, and the form of art is known as Dang Putuler Nach. Now, for the case study, I have selected this particular organization called Satyonarayan Putul Natya Sangstha. It's based in Joynagar, which is in South Chobbish Parganas in West Bengal. So before moving on, I'd like to briefly introduce you to the organization. Now, the organization was founded in 1939 by a farmer / landowner. His name was Kangal Chandra Mondol. Now, the organization is over 80 years old since he started it. So the group naturally passed over to his son, Horomoni Mondol, who soon realized that the traditional art could not compete with the modern electronic media of film and television. Now, when Horomoni Mondol's son, Nirapada, was about to take charge of the group, Horomoni realized that there was no future, and this led him to sell his puppets and get rid of his group. Now, Nirapada, he decided to continue the art form, and he embraced innovation and technology to restructure the group. And now the group has almost 3 to 4 fourth generation members working as artists. So now I will briefly discuss what the theory of cultural commons is and how this particular organization falls under this framework. So cultural commons have been defined by Bertoncini et al. As cultures shared and expressed by a community in a given space and time. Now, there are 3 important dimensions which define cultural commons. These are culture, space, and community. And apart from the dimensions, the other thing that is very important in case of cultural commons is that since they are resources that can be shared among people, they are threatened by 2 social dilemmas, according to Bertoncini et al. In the next few slides, I will tell you how the community members of Satyonarayan Putul Natya Sangstha produce and reproduce the art form of rod puppetry as a cultural common within a given physical and temporal location. We will also see how the organization is dealing with the social dilemma and staying afloat. So first, I come to the dimension of art. Now, this dimension includes both tangible and intangible aspects. Now, tangible aspects are things that can be felt through senses, and intangible aspects cannot be felt through the human senses. So the tangible aspects here include everything that is meant for the audience to see and hear. That is the puppets, the supporting props, and how they are presented on the stage, including the dialogue, the dance, and the music repertoire. It also entails the actual construction process of the puppets, the props, and also the set decor, the set design, and everything that comes with it. The intangible aspect, on the other hand, is what drives whatever tangible aspects I just listed right now. So the knowledge and the training that goes into the production and the reproduction process are unseen, are not felt by the senses, but these are what give life to the tangible aspects. Now moving on to the dimension of space. So, this involves the physical surroundings within which the members of the organization produce the art form. Now, according to Mr. Nirapada Mondol, there is no specific stage for rod puppetry. So what happens is that a proscenium stage has to be converted into one when the performance takes place. Now, this is done by adding scene props or different layers of curtains or dividing the stage into zones. Because when a puppeteer is performing rock puppetry, if they go a bit back towards the stage, what happens is they become audible, they become visible to the audience. So that is a problem. So in order to prevent that, that space has to be minimized to an extent so that only the puppet can be seen above the screen. Apart from the final performance space, which is the stage, the rehearsal space, as well as the office where the editing takes place, and also the workshop where the puppets are constructed and everything, the designing of the stage and all is done, that falls under the dimension of space. Now, moving on to the dimension of community. This organization is a registered society right now. So for this reason, it has a managing committee of around 8 to 10 members. And it also has the community of artists who do the actual work. So that keeps varying. But currently it's at 15, but people keep leaving and they keep joining. So that keeps changing. The artists in turn are divided into different layers according to the functions they perform. And this does not, however, impact the amount of importance that is accorded to each of them. So they are all equal. It's just that for easy identification, there are senior artists, there are junior artists, there are helpers who help with the set design and the curtains and taking off and taking on of the curtains. The production of rock puppetry is successful only when the members interact and cooperate with each other. So as I said previously, there are several, third, fourth generation artists who are currently performing with the organization. So now we will look at the threats, that are there to traditional rock puppetry, which, forced Nirapada to make certain changes to his group. So now, traditionally, rock puppetry has always used, scripts that were meant for human plays. Now, these dramas were written for human beings, but as we know, puppets are not capable of expressing or moving their limbs as well as human beings are. So that was always a problem. Now, the other thing is that the community of rock puppetry always had the strict divisions. So first we had the musicians and the instrumentalists. They were on the top tier. Then we had the actors who would read out the scripts written for the human place. And lastly, we had the actual puppet manipulators who would do all the manipulation and who would be the ones present on the stage and doing all the work. Okay. Thirdly, we had long hours of show because it would go on throughout the night. People would usually be engaged in a day work and then they would use this as a mode of entertainment. The puppets were extremely heavy as they were mostly made of clay or wood, which would make them extremely heavy and difficult to operate. The traditional rock puppetry groups often reused the same puppets for different characters in different plays. So they would look exactly the same, but they would be a different character in different shows. The stage and lighting was not proper. The stage was bare minimum, so it was mostly made of bamboos which were erected and tied together, and the lighting was just traditional lanterns that were hung from wires above the stage. So this would often create the problem of shadows on the stage coming from the puppets. And finally, we know how the modern mass media, the TVs, the computers and electronic devices like mobile phones, this made it easier for people to stay at home, stay within the comforts of their home and enjoy, cultural activities. So these things, they were threats to the traditional rock puppetry and how it was practiced. Now, these threats in turn gave rise to a social dilemma that we have conceptualized this as the struggle between traditionalists and innovators, as theorized by Berticini et al. Now, in order to understand the dilemma faced by this community, we need to understand the struggle first. Now, according to Berticini et al., when the traditionalists and the innovators within a community cannot reach a consensus, there is underproduction of the cultural resource in question, which in turn leads to tragedy of the cultural commons. So when Horomonimondol's traditional group was struggling to survive, his son Nirapodo had suggested several modern solutions which were not very well received by the other members of the group. So eventually what happened was Harmony Mondol's group could no longer survive. And after this, Nirapodo had to put in a lot of effort to revive the group, and currently he's leading it with the innovations that he has decided to do. So now we will see what are these innovations, or what are these modern methods that Nirapodo has adopted to keep his traditional art alive. Now, the first thing that he did after taking charge of the group was he broke down the hierarchy that I mentioned. So he said that although there will be junior, senior artists and helpers according to the function they serve, but there would be no difference in the kind of respect that they would earn or the status they would have within the group. So every artist is supposed to know how to do woodwork or set up the stage. A senior artist should be able to handle a curtain and so on. The second thing that he did was he stopped using the scripts that were written for Human Place. So he started rewriting, famous stories or stories that were already there for Human Place, and he started reconceptualizing them for puppet theater. He started using, other, apart from Hindu epics, he started using other religious, not other religious scripts as such, but scripts which were more secular in nature and which can cater to needs of a wider audience. Now, this also permitted him to make use of different types of puppets. So he is no longer just restricted to rod puppetry. He also makes use of glove puppets, or shadow puppets, string puppets. So he can utilize all these forms of puppetry to showcase his art form now. He is using lighter and more durable materials for making his puppets. One reason he says is that this gives him an opportunity to recycle more waste material. And secondly, since the puppets are now lighter, the younger members in his group can easily, participate in manipulating the puppets. So that encourages the younger generation more to come and become a part of this group. Then he's using modern lighting technology. So now he has props which have the lights integrated in them. This sort of reduces the dependence on the light and sound person. And this gives a sort of control in the hands of the artist, who can themselves turn off and on the light. And finally, women being involved in a traditional theater like this was a taboo at one point. But now he has removed it, as both his daughters are now very active members of the group. And he is also welcoming other women who would be interested to do this. In summation, I would like to give you an idea of the present scenario that is right now existing in Joynagar. So, initially, like 500, 600 years earlier, when the rod puppetry tradition was started in Joynagar, there were like several hundred families which would practice this art form. But now the situation is such that they have no longer been able to survive, keep up with the changing times. So there are very, few remaining. Nirapodo's group is one of them. Now, Nirapodo realized the importance of innovation in the survival of traditional art form, which had been conceived in a very different time, and also to cater to a very different set of audience. Now, after taking charge, he got rid of the, the hierarchy, the functional hierarchy that existed in the group. And this has led to a boost of morale on the part of the members, because now they feel that, what they do will not determine how much respect they earn. So they are willing to take up all kinds of activities. Moreover, in order to engage his future generations, Nirapodo has been working on modifying the puppets so that the youngsters can step in and take charge once he retires. Also, moving away from the traditional religious scripts have made the place secular and suitable for a wider group of audience. So it can be said that Nirapodo is not just focusing on recruiting more members for his group, he's also making sure that the audience is taken into account while writing the plays and while considering the future of rod puppetry. So it can be said in conclusion that the traditional group of rod puppetry is able to produce and reproduce its cultural commons due to the innovative measures, failing which it would have declined from the tragedy of cultural commons. These are my references for the work. The rest has been a case study where I visited the field and collected the data. Thank you everyone for watching. If you have any suggestions or queries or comments, you can reach out to me in the following email IDs.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good paper and I would say case study on road puppetry in Bengal.
Thank you, sir.
And I think the traditional media has faced a lot of challenges because of the electronic media, because of the communication revolution we have in India in last 4 decades. And puppetry shows which were very common, I think in 60s and 70s, even in urban areas. I have seen this in my locality and the neighborhood is now not seen at all in urban areas, but in rural areas also still you can see these things. So they have problem of survival, no doubt, and they try to cope, as you have told, them from religious. Earlier they were actually religious communicators, and many religious stories they were communicating to the from one generation to another. And it is also a, you can say, agency for socialization of the children, because children are more interested in such shows, although adults are also. But I think it was how the different stories were transmitted with entertainment aspects of that. And that was very important. Media, as you have already said, 500 to 600 years it has survived in this country. But with the passage of time, things transformed, and I think now it is very difficult that economic dimension is also very important for that. And most of them, but what is important, maybe important from sociological point of view, that in what kind of occupation they have shifted from this occupation, what kind of occupational, because this if because many youngsters are not adopting this profession. So in which of profession or occupations they are moving, because they have certain art skills. So definitely they may have some choice if, which have some element of art. I think this can be explored in some studies.
Sir, if I may answer this, actually, this group I was talking to, what I found is when the earlier generations were performing, they would always have this as a part-time, preoccupation. This was never their full-time job. So they were farmers first, and this was something they did throughout the night. And now, like this Nirapada Mondal, he himself is a primary school teacher. So he does not depend any longer on this, art form to for his survival. So he has a steady source of income.
Okay.
And so does his future generations. They want to do other things, but this is something they want to take forward in their free time.
Good. Okay, very interesting. And I think this kind of works, are very important from sociological point of view. So I appreciate you and your supervisor to take up this kind of research work. Which is very much required in sociology of culture particularly. So very good work. Now I think we have one more paper, and Ashutosh Upadhyay is not present. That is from Sudipta Garai. Sudipta is there?
Yes, sir.
So Sudipta, now this is your time. Understanding social movements in the age of globalization and new media. Okay, another paper from now we are moving from traditional media to the new media.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So just to give a very brief introduction, I teach in Christ University, Bangalore, and I have done my studies in JNU, New Delhi. So this is a paper. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, audible.
Yeah, so this is a paper which is more of a reflection, and I would actually like to get more inputs from all of you that I can actually develop on this paper. So this is about understanding social movement in the age of globalization and new media. So when we look into social movements, we kind of look it in terms of collective phenomena, and which, however, tries to kind of question hegemonic power with active engagement and collective consciousness with of people who share some unity in thoughts and shared sense of belonging, some kind of shared agenda, or in terms of familiarity of the whole aspect. I mean, the movement that they are part of. So when we look into a movement, this whole questioning of hegemonic power becomes very, very important. And thus, when we look into traditional social movement, we have seen that how massive mobilization or street demonstration, or looking into the structure, questioning structure was very, very important. But as we kind of look into the changes of these social movements, we see movements more related to identity, to cultural norms or symbolicism, which again becomes very, very eco environmental movement. All of these actually become very important. So the whole social movement, I think, is again very interesting to look at with the change of the time, and to understand maybe how Marx was talking about the social kind of history. We can also look into the history of the movements and kind of look into the concerns of these social movements, and to understand the nature of the societies as well. So at this now we also see movements where it is led by people, where we do not sometimes have very, very prominent figures like Gandhi or Mao, or I mean, we might not have a particular kind of a face in front when we are talking about a movement at this point. So to understand this nature of social movement, to understand the nature of the society that we are in, it is very interesting that how new social movement, I mean, new social media actually intervened in this whole changing dimension of how we look into these social movements that are happening, and kind of reflect on some of the questions, because we know this is happening. We know that how social media has actually intervened, and it has been very helpful in the whole networking, mobilization of collective imagination, or framing social issues collectively. All of that has actually happened. But when we look into these social new kind of movements that are happening, what is interesting is who are the ones who actually get to kind of participate in these movements again becomes important. Like, who are the ones who have this power to use these social medium to express their thoughts again becomes an important issue when we talk about it. So a social network analysis is also a research method that investigates social ties and shared stories and identities among individual actors in and around these movements. So that is again a new kind of methodology that is being used to study these new networks of informal interactions between different individuals from different locations, from different organizations, sharing certain collective identities, which again becomes very, very interesting. So when we look into this new media and movements, I just, as I said, it's much of a reflection. It's much of some of, I would like to all of you actually to participate and kind of give me more feedback on this. So when we look into these kind of movements, some are short-term, short-lived forms, like when we kind of look we see some kind of post, people's opinion coming into place, or some opinions in terms of in changing policy making, or when we see change.org making certain kind of changes, or where people are just signing in and making a change in certain kind of policies of a government, be it government or other agencies, it becomes very interesting to look that how the nature of the whole idea of movement actually changed in terms of how we kind of have a structure in how we look into social movements. So in this regard, a specific movement like the Me Too movement actually becomes very interesting to kind of point out. Sorry. So when we talk about Me Too movement, as we know that it actually started in the West and how it came in Indian context, but again, I mean, when we are talking about a movement where, I mean, it is actually a very important movement because people used that social media as a space to kind of interact, share their experiences. So it is more like, I mean, it actually gets illustrated in how what we see as personal being political. So we can understand that how these social media pages or platforms have been used to share and kind of connect to people and to have this collective feeling or collective experiences. But the whole, I mean, at some point, some of the question that comes in here is the whole idea of power, the whole idea of who gets that platform to speak about or to share their ideas. The other aspect is again about resources, in terms of who has the information, how is it being used, to what extent are these movements actually being influencing individuals. Because as an urban staying in an urban space, I think it actually, I mean, for me personally, when we talk about Me Too movement, it has a great kind of influence, because at least people came together, they talked about harassment, they talked about a lot of experience that they couldn't actually speak for a long time. But then to what extent actually we are talking about this movement for whom, and who are the ones who are actually using this space to access this new media is remains this question. So I'll just conclude with the whole idea that how in the postmodern world it is important, probably it is inevitable that we will have a new understanding of how we understood social movements, because now connecting becomes in sharing information, connecting, sharing of thoughts and identities becomes much more easier. But to what extent are we actually being able to sustain all of these movements that are happening is also a question, because to what extent we are kind of focusing on the aims and objectives that again are a part of this movement remains very important for us to reflect on. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Sudipta. Your presentation is always very lucid, and you always raise very pertinent issues. And I think that the issues you have raised are very relevant from the viewpoint of the social media. And I think we have to look into the answer of these questions you have raised on social media, particularly the movements which are launched on that, who are the beneficiaries of that, what is the purpose of these things. And I think these questions are relevant from sociological point of view. And have you written the paper, full paper?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have. I'll just send you.
Okay, please send.
I thought if I have some comments, probably I'll include that and send.
Yeah. And one thing I would like to say, although we have divided paper presentation into 4 sessions, but there is no such cut-off line that I think there is a continuity in that, and I hope that all the registered participants of research committee will remain present in all the session. Only then we will be able to make some sense. Otherwise, disappearing after paper presentation, not saying to any particular person, but a general trend. But I think it is a small group, and I think 12 or 13 persons are only here. So it is a good gathering, and if some comments come afterwards, immediately not. So you keep these comments with you, and we will provide time, because tomorrow we have more time, about 2 hours. Today it was just 90 minutes, and we have lost first 12 minutes in ordering our things. So now everything is in order, and I hope that very good papers, as it is always in this research committee, and everyone enjoy the papers which are presented in this RC. So with this, because now it is already 4 past 7, and our time was up to 7 o'clock. So I will stop here for today, and we will resume this in our second session tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And this is my request to all of you. Please be present in all the sessions, so that we can enjoy your company as well as your comments and observations on papers of other very interesting papers we are having. We have total 18 papers. Today there is one casualty out of 5, one person was not present. So with this, I conclude this session, and I am very thankful to all of you, the organizer Girja Gupta ji, because she has provided, I think, a lot of service to this conference.
Not really, sir. Part of the department.
Okay.
Yes, and an alumni of Mumbai University of Bombay at that time. So yes, sir, just a reminder not to switch off your camera,
no, I'm not. For next 15 minutes. Yes, okay, please. Okay.
And we will meet tomorrow morning around 10 to 9 or so, sir.
It is 9 o'clock.
Yes, so 10 minutes earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
10 to 9.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Nice meeting all the participants.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. We can chit chat in this time.
I had one query, sir. Can we have the recordings of our presentations?
Yeah.
Yes, recording is there. It is going on.
But it is going on, but how do we access it? And apparently today, how do we share the PPTs in this? Is there a possibility? How?
I think we tried something afterwards, and that's the reason why Shudipta or one of the other girls,
she was able to share.
Yes, she was able to share.
But in my case, my prompt only was unable to. So the paper.
We're very sorry. We're very sorry.
No, you need not be sorry.
We're all learning. And I have my colleague here right next to me. So when he's from the Department of Geography. But nice. I insisted that he be there because I'm not at all technical savvy, and all these younger colleagues are definitely better. So that's the reason why we managed.
Gradually, we all are learning this new media. So I'm very glad to meet my old colleagues here, and professional colleagues like Girja ji here, and it is very nice to see you.
Thank you. Same here.
I have been the managing committee of ISS also from the 2011 to 16, and now I am a convener of this research committee.
Would definitely like to interact with you afterwards also.
Yeah.
Because my specialization has been about globalization, which is why I chose this topic.
And I am first professor of globalization in India at University of Allahabad.
Okay.
So I headed this department for last 10 years.
Okay. My interest has been more because of Immanuel Wallerstein and the entire sociology.
Okay. Wallerstein is very basic to globalization.
Absolutely.
His word system theory.
Yes.
And if
So
you would
my
like,
suggestion to
I
all of-
can deliver some talks in your college, online talks.
Definitely.
On Anthony Giddens, on Manuel Castells.
Yes, Castles.
And David
David
Held.
Harvey. In fact, exactly. And right now I'm teaching David Harvey also.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Very. So
So
we
the
will be in
whole-
interaction, and it is nice. And please become member of this research committee.
Okay. I will.
And present a paper in next conference.
Yes, definitely. This time I was very worried because I have to handle this. That's why I said no paper presentation.
But next time.
Sure.
This time you are organizing, so it is very difficult to present papers.
Yes.
So, but as you are working in this area,
yes.
So you can link with us in this research committee.
Sure.
And you will find, if you will present in all 4 sessions, we have very good quality papers
I'm sure.
in this research committee.
Yes.
And discussions are held are very good quality.
Yeah.
And we give sufficient time for presentation, and we also discuss each and every paper.
Very nice.
It is not that, okay, no, we will discuss in the last, and in the last, no discussion takes place.
Not at all. In fact, my suggestion to all the participants of today also is that, sorry to be sounding, talking from above, but reading up on Wallerstein, on David Harvey, on Manuel Castells, and so on, very important. Because that sir mentioned after the first paper how we need to develop a theoretical understanding where globalization is concerned. So the whole world systems theory, the core periphery theory, there is so much that we can do, and in terms of research also.
Yes.
So because I have worked also as a trade unionist in the ready-made garments industry, and the whole thing is related to globalization. So
I am in this area for last 2 decades.
Okay. Yes.
I understand all these issues.
I will send you my paper sometime.
Yes. Please.
On
please.
ready-made garments industry.
Yes, most welcome.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice meeting everyone.
Thank you.
See you all tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
we will remain on the screen for some time. I think there is no problem.
Yeah, but so you can end the recording then.
Now I should end or after 15 minutes?
No, end the recording.
Okay.
But stay on screen for, keep the screen on for 15 minutes.
So now I can, okay.
So it's like very interesting. These things are very interesting. When she was presenting her paper, I was just thinking about the situation in Singapore and what I'll be speaking tomorrow. It's like
but the recording has begun again.
Oh, but I have not started this.
I